I never believed in warnings from strangers, omens, or coincidences. I've always been someone who trusts logic, schedules, and carefully laid plans. That night, I thought I was just running late for the 7:15 bus to see Graham. I wanted to finalize our plans for our holiday trip to the Zanzibar, check the flight itinerary, and maybe discuss our activities when we get there. Everything seemed ordinary, predictable, safe, until it wasn't. I was juggling my bag, coffee, and phone, hurrying across the slippery city sidewalks. The air smelled of wet asphalt and exhaust, the kind of winter smell that creeps under your collar and sticks in your nose. That's when I saw her. A frail woman sitting on a bench, layers of scarves and coats wrapped around her thin frame. Her gray eyes met mine, piercing and sharp, and in that instant, it felt like she could see straight into me. Before I could react, she pressed a folded note into my hand. Her fingers were icy, almost shockingly cold. Do not take the bus tonight. Go home. Hide. Don't ask why. You'll understand soon, she whispered. I wanted to laugh. Me, the rational one, trusting a warning from a stranger? But something about her tone, urgent but calm, quiet but insistent, froze me. My pulse quickened, and I felt a strange prickle of unease in my stomach. My instincts, the part of me I rarely trusted, were screaming. I debated ignoring it, telling myself it was absurd, that the world doesn't hand out warnings like that. But something in her eyes, it wasn't fear, it wasn't theatrics. It was truth, or at least a truth she believed in. Against my reason, I obeyed. I walked away from the bus stop. I could have gone, I could have ignored the note, but my gut told me to turn back. I clutched it in my pocket and hurried home, my mind spinning. By the time I stepped inside my apartment, the quiet felt heavier than usual. Every sound, the radiator's hum, the distant rumble of traffic, even the soft creak of the floorboards, seemed magnified. I took off my coat and slumped against the doorframe, staring at the note in my hand. Hide. Don't ask. You'll understand soon. I read it over and over, trying to convince myself that this was ridiculous. I am logical. I am careful. But the part of me that trusted instincts, that small voice I usually ignored, insisted I was in danger. I debated for what felt like hours whether to obey the note. Hide. In my own apartment? I laughed at the absurdity, picturing myself crouched behind my coats like a scared child. And yet, the sense of unease would not leave. I felt that familiar tickle of fear at the base of my neck, the quickening of my pulse, the cold sweat of nerves. I checked my apartment once, twice, each sound making me jump. The front door was locked, the windows closed, yet every creak, every shift of the building, every distant sound seemed amplified. The quiet pressed down on me like a physical weight. I wanted to rationalize it. Graham could be late, the bus could be delayed, nothing was wrong, but I couldn't. I remembered the look in the stranger's eyes, the urgency in her whisper, the cold of her fingers. Something was off. Something deadly. I positioned myself behind a pile of coats, crouched low on the floor, trying to make myself as invisible as possible. My heart was pounding, my mind racing. What if it was nothing? What if I looked ridiculous? I didn't care. Something inside me told me this was real. As I waited, my mind drifted to Graham. I remembered how he had insisted on merging finances, joint accounts, life insurance adjustments, things he had framed as trust, unity, love. I had gone along, because I trusted him. Because I thought love meant obedience, compromise, and shared decisions. What if everything I had done was leading to something darker? The thought made me shiver. Then came the sound that made my stomach drop, the front door unlocking. Graham's key. He wasn't supposed to be home. Only for emergencies. Only, in theory. I pressed myself closer to the coats. My breath caught. Then I heard it, a soft laugh, high-pitched, unmistakably a woman's. My stomach twisted. They weren't alone. I forced myself to stay silent, straining to hear every footstep, every shuffle of papers, every faint clink of a wine glass. My analytical mind raced. What could this mean? An affair? A robbery? Something worse? Each scenario felt worse than the last. I tried to memorize every sound, pattern, cadence, so I could anticipate their moves. I recalled the last month, the little shifts in Graham's behavior. He had grown distant, protective of his phone, overly critical of small things. He'd brushed off my concerns as stress or wedding pressure. I'd believed him. I wanted to believe him. Now, the context of the sounds around me made my stomach churn. I realized this had been planned. Everything, the distance, the control, the secrecy, was orchestrated. Through the crack in the door, I began to piece it together. Graham spoke casually, like he was discussing a routine project. She'll never suspect. Everything will be set by tomorrow. The woman laughed softly, approvingly. And the apartment? Once the paperwork is done, it's ours. My chest tightened. Every memory of the last weeks, every life insurance adjustment, every financial decision he had nudged me toward, fell into place. He had been setting the stage for my absence, financially, legally, and emotionally. The words repeated in my mind, by tomorrow, she won't suspect. My fear sharpened into clarity. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a trap. A well-planned trap. And I had almost walked straight into it, blind, trusting him completely. I had to act. Fear was a tool, not a prison. I slowly retrieved my phone, careful not to make a sound. Audio recording. Video recording. Screenshots. Every piece of evidence I could gather, every word they spoke, every sound of movement. I mapped out their positions, memorized their voices, noted the timing of every step. I backed up everything to a secure cloud he couldn't access, a small safeguard I had always kept, just in case. Every transaction, every document, every coerced signature was recorded. My rational mind kicked into overdrive, turning adrenaline into strategy. I knew I couldn't confront them, not yet. I needed leverage, evidence, and a plan to regain control. Each passing minute gave me more clarity, more control, and more proof that instinct had saved me. I sat quietly behind the coats, heart hammering, mind calculating. I realized then that the stranger's warning had not been mystical, it had been essential. My survival depended on listening, thinking, and moving with precision. I stayed pressed against the coats, heart hammering, ears straining for the tiniest hint of movement. Each clink of a wine glass, every step across the floor, each rustle of papers was a piece of the puzzle. Fear had transformed into something sharper, more precise. A tool. I had to use it, or risk losing everything. I slowly unlocked my phone. Every sound around me felt amplified, the soft click of Graham's shoes, the faint shuffle of the other woman moving in the living room. I began recording audio first, careful to angle the phone so it would capture the entire conversation without giving away my position. Then video, capturing shadows, glimpses of faces, hands, documents, the evidence I would need to protect myself. I thought about every coerced decision Graham had influenced, the joint accounts, the life insurance adjustments, the subtle manipulations disguised as planning for our future. I realized how meticulously he had orchestrated everything. He thought I was predictable, that I would blindly follow his directions, never questioning his motives. He underestimated me. My rational mind created a step-by-step plan. First, secure evidence. Second, freeze access to accounts. Third, alert legal and financial authorities. Each step had to be executed carefully, silently, without tipping them off. I could feel my pulse steady as I worked, fear transformed into calm precision. I watched shadows on the floor, noting how they moved through the apartment, memorizing positions. Every step I took in planning their downfall had to be deliberate. I imagined the headlines if I failed, a life unraveling before me. I couldn't let that happen. The stranger's warning had saved me. It was now up to me to act. By the time I had secured the first round of evidence, my mind was sharp. I felt a strange clarity I hadn't experienced in years. I realized I had the upper hand. I had turned instinct into strategy, fear into control. Hours passed in tense silence. I stayed hidden, crouched behind coats, listening. Time stretched slowly, each second magnified. Their voices occasionally rose in laughter, casual discussion, wine clinking against glass, papers shuffling on the table. Every noise confirmed the plan Graham had so casually described. The betrayal was ongoing. I replayed the last month in my mind. The subtle changes in Graham's behavior, distance, irritability, obsession with finances, secretive phone calls, all pieces of a puzzle I almost missed. I had trusted him blindly, assuming love required compromise and obedience. Now I understood how close I had come to losing everything. My mind mapped out contingencies. If they discovered me, how would I respond? How could I use evidence to protect myself? Each scenario I imagined sharpened my strategy. I realized that patience would be as crucial as speed. If I acted too soon, I could lose the advantage I had painstakingly created. I reflected on the stranger again. The icy fingers, the urgent whisper, the piercing eyes, they had saved me. It wasn't mystical. It wasn't coincidence. It was survival, and the warning had given me the time I needed to act. Without it, I might already be trapped in a nightmare I couldn't escape. Finally, the moment came. They moved toward the bedroom, likely thinking they had settled for the night. Heart racing, I moved silently, careful not to disturb anything. My bare feet pressed against the cold wooden floor as I slid from behind the coats, grabbing my laptop and my external drive. I left the apartment as quietly as I could. Every sound outside, the faint hum of cars, distant footsteps, the whistling wind, felt magnified. I kept my head low, moving quickly toward my car. Each step reinforced my realization, the stranger had saved me. She had put me in a position to act, to protect myself. Once inside the car, I exhaled, but only slightly. I had survived the apartment. But survival was just the beginning. I needed to reclaim control, protect my assets, and ensure Graham could not undo my life. By 2:17 a.m., I was parked 2 blocks away, laptop open, screen glowing in the darkness. I began systematically securing every account, every transaction, every piece of evidence. Audio recordings, video clips, screenshots, all uploaded to my secure cloud. I initiated freezes on scheduled transfers, flagged suspicious activity, and drafted encrypted emails for my lawyer, detailing timestamps and providing full documentation. I could feel every decision solidifying my safety, yet I knew Graham had no idea. Every step reinforced the control I now had over my life. I realized that logic, preparation, and precision had become my armor. Fear had not paralyzed me, it had sharpened me. I could finally act from a position of power rather than vulnerability. By 6:35 a.m., emails and alerts were sent, accounts frozen, compliance notifications triggered. I sent Graham a simple, innocuous text, bus delayed. Thinking of staying home instead. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. He did not panic, but I could sense the shift in him. By noon, the consequences of my preparation began to unfold. Transfers were suspended, accounts inaccessible, lawyers confirming withdrawal of representation for Graham. I watched carefully, monitoring every digital footprint. Each attempt he made to access funds or manipulate accounts was futile. When he finally showed up at my apartment at 1:03 p.m., pale, desperate, I didn't move to confront him. I simply waited, calm, watching him flounder. His usual confidence was gone. For the first time, he realized I had outmaneuvered him. And I realized that power lay not in confrontation, but in patience, in preparation, and in letting the consequences play out. By the time Graham arrived at my apartment at 1:03 p.m., he looked nothing like the confident man I had loved. Pale, disheveled, fumbling with words he normally wielded like weapons, he had no idea I was prepared for him. I stayed silent, letting him panic, letting him unravel on his own. You don't understand, he began, voice quivering. I let him trail off, letting the weight of his words fall flat in the apartment. For months, he had relied on manipulation, on my compliance, on my predictable nature. He hadn't counted on me listening to the warning, on me acting with precision, on me outmaneuvering him. I didn't need to raise my voice, didn't need to shout. I simply stood there, calm, letting him drown in the consequences of his choices. His hands shook as he reached for his phone, checking the accounts he once controlled. Alerts, freezes, compliance flags, they were all there, immovable and irreversible. He looked at me, realization dawning too late. Fear replaced the arrogance I had once adored. I tilted my head, letting silence stretch, each second heavy with unspoken judgment. This confrontation wasn't about emotion. It was about control, and he had lost it. Alone later, I sat in my apartment, letting the adrenaline fade into reflection. The betrayal had cut deeper than any argument or fight I had ever experienced. Months of manipulation, coercion disguised as love and trust, had almost taken everything from me, my savings, my security, my autonomy. I thought about the subtle patterns I had ignored. The secrecy with his phone, the critiques disguised as advice, the sudden insistence on merging finances. How blind I had been. How completely I had trusted him. And yet, I also realized how sharp my instincts had become. I had listened when a stranger's warning whispered through the chaos of my life, and that made all the difference. I pored over the evidence again, meticulously cataloging each audio clip, screenshot, and transaction record. The betrayal was not only personal, it was methodical, planned, and precise. My response needed to match that level of precision. I had survived because I had transformed fear into strategy. 2 days later, I learned the truth about the bus I had avoided. Mechanical failure had delayed it for hours, an accident waiting to happen. For a moment, I shivered at the thought of how close I had come to disaster. The stranger had saved me in ways I couldn't fully understand. I couldn't stop thinking about her, small, frail, with eyes that cut through me as if she already knew my life. She never spoke my name, never gave explanation beyond the cryptic warning, and I never saw her again. Yet she had changed everything. She had given me the chance to survive, to outsmart a man I had trusted with my heart and my life. Her warning had been my lifeline. Without it, I would have boarded that bus, walked directly into a nightmare I could not have escaped. And yet, here I was, alive, aware, and empowered. In the weeks that followed, I rebuilt not just my finances, but my sense of self. I secured my accounts, strengthened my digital security, and distanced myself completely from Graham's influence. Each decision reminded me of the fragility of trust and the power of preparedness. I reflected on love, on trust, and on how easily they could be weaponized. But I also realized something vital. I had survived, not because love saved me, but because I trusted myself, my instincts, and my intellect. I had listened when the world whispered, and I had acted decisively. The stranger's warning had not only saved me from harm, it had taught me a lesson about vigilance, about the importance of listening to the quiet urgencies that life sometimes sends. Sometimes, when I pass that bus stop, I find myself staring at the empty bench where she once sat. Was she warning me about the bus? Or about the man I had almost trusted with everything? I don't know, and maybe I never will. All I know is that I listened. I took the warning seriously. And because I did, I survived. My life is mine again, carefully measured, guarded, and resilient. The experience left me stronger, sharper, and infinitely more aware of the world's unpredictability. Every so often, I feel a shiver when the winter wind curls around my collar or a stranger's eyes meet mine. But now, I smile quietly to myself. I am ready. I am aware. And I am in control. The warning saved me. My actions completed the rescue. And I will never forget the lesson. Survival requires courage, calculation, and the willingness to listen when the world whispers truths you cannot yet understand. If you enjoyed this story and want more mind-blowing tales like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, comment your thoughts below, and share it with friends. You won't want to miss what's coming next.